We saw this with our own eyes. It was a sight no one has ever seen before. A woman in leather.
Hello! It's like something from another planet!
Oh yes, also that. Devil Girl from Mars. A group of men and women with seemingly nothing in common find themselves trapped by a creature without mercy. A news reporter with an earth-shattering haircut. A woman trying to escape from this movie, her past. A scientist character so narrow-minded and skeptical, he will ruin Christmas for your kids.
You know, this whole thing is a waste of time.
This woman, this man, and introducing the Devil Girl from Mars herself, Space Gaga. Her evil plan? To kidnap Earthmen for our planet's repopulation project.
Meanwhile, I will select some of your strongest men to return with me to Mars.
Where do I sign? Things only get worse once the rest of the Martian army invades under the guide of the lesbian Spider Queen and Marvin the Martian. Now the Doctor has only 24 hours to send the Flintstones back to their timeline before Godzilla shows up. Alien dominatrix from outer space. A story filled with terror. Suspense. Romance. Science.
This whole thing is a waste of time.
Compelling dialogue.
Just like the black spider. Did humans having trouble with her?
You speak in riddles.
And emasculation. Martian Feminist Attacks, the movie that might actually happen. Yeah, right. Imagine that. Independent women whose life don't revolve around a man. Preposterous. Devil Girl from Mars. When do I get paid for this? What do you mean in 2013? Oh, that's it. I'm out of here. Stupid losers and women. Alien films. How good rubbish.
Episode 10. I don't usually review live-action films on this show, but when I do, it's Devil Girl from Mars! For some reason. Looking at a low-budget production made in the early 1950s through today's cynical, prone-to-riff lenses forged in the wake of a prevalent postmodern take on classic narratives, it's fairly easy to mistake this film as just another over-the-top silly sci-fi schlock of its times. And let's face it, that's pretty much how its poster sells it to be. So imagine my utter shock and surprise when I discovered this was actually an independent British production based off a popular stage play of the period. And also it doesn't have more than one flying saucer in it. You lied to me, Devil Girl from Mars! This was directed by David MacDonald and co-written by the same guy responsible for the original play. It was shot in the span of 3 weeks, with no retakes, save for some damaged footage that needed to be filmed anew. Now, the film has been usually described as delightfully bad, a prime example of exceptionally bad acting resulting to be accidentally hilarious, which more or less summarizes the whole appeal of the classic 1950s sci-fi schlock fest. I would have to disagree with that. Let me explain why. As per typical film adaptations of theatrical representations, the story takes place in one single place, a Scottish inn in the middle of nowhere to be specific, in which a small cast of characters is forced through various contrivances to inhabit, for the duration of its running time. Who are these characters, you may ask? Well, there's a
News reporter with a world-shattering story. A girl trying to escape from her past. The scientist trapped in spite of his knowledge. And here also is the barmaid, hiding a murderer's secret. A murderer with a life already forfeit.
Yes, thank you for that. And you thought today's trailers were bad. So, token scientist guy and manly reporter main lead guy are tracking down a possible UFO. Naturally, science guy's very scientific mind is skeptical about this very unscientific possibility. I wonder if he's going to be proven wrong.
You know, this whole thing is a waste of time.
The science guy.
They come at this scene already filled with contractual love interest female leads, the guilt-tripping prison escapee that will ultimately redeem himself for his crime at the end, spoiler, 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 and a random kid you'll learn to hate.
Just like the Black Spider. Then no one's having trouble with her.
Now, let's talk about the acting, because that's where the film's main gripe resides. It is pretty bad indeed, but ironically not as bad to be considered funny. The style comes off as a pretty rushed transliteration from the emphatic method of the original play, but it doesn't quite achieve that level of delightful over-the-top incompetence that would render it memorable, which makes its reputation of so bad it's great sort of undeserved. So the acting is dull and mediocre at best. Until Nya is introduced. All hail Queen Nya, supreme ruler of Earth! Praise and glory to our new Empress! This scene alone makes this film worth it. From the glorious campy design of her outfit to the very way she moves and walks, oozing with charisma and a completely justified air of superiority that's only matched by her more sadistic demeanor when it comes to show off that superiority of hers to the inferior Earthman. Nya is...
The devil girl from Mars.
Shut up! Shut up or I'll kill you, you stupid trailer!
Get back!
It gets even better when she starts talking.
My name is Nya. Where are you going?
From Mars, eh? Huh. I wonder if she's friends with the lesbian Spider Queen. Oi, Nya! Wanna go on down some slides with me? No, I'm kidnapping Earthman to repopulate the planet today. Alright then, more fun for me! Jokes aside, that is seriously her plan.
Many of your Earth years ago, our women were similar to yours today. Our emancipation took several hundred years and ended in a bitter, devastating war between the sexes. After the War of the Sexes, women became the rulers of Mars, but now the male has fallen into a decline. The birth rate is dropping tremendously, for despite our advanced science, we have still found no way of creating life.
So you come here for new blood?
In a way. But also to test a newly invented organic metal, of which my ship is built. But when I get back, we will build more spaceships. Meanwhile, I will select some of your strongest men to return with me to Mars.
And if they don't want to go with you?
There is no if.
Your philosophy may not be appreciated.
Okay, before you start rolling your eyes at the speed of sound, there are two ways to interpret this. One, this is an allegory about man's atavist fear of the other sex. More specifically, the character of Nya serves as a demonization of women's empowerment, which would lead to the figurative and possibly literal castration of man's sense of self-worth. His genitalia. I'm talking about his genitalia, is that clear? This interpretation would also fit with the idea of technological progress seen as dangerous and mortal to our livelihood, symbolized by Nya's superior alien technology that she loves to show off in order to impress the Earthlings, which creates a parallel with the previously mentioned fear of the imminent birth of modern feminism. That's one way to look at it. Another one would be number 2. This is a satire. The Martian man who lost the battle of sexes, thus becoming impotent as a result, might just be a subtle mockery of man's irrational fear that independent women will automatically undermine their masculinity. And honestly, that seems to be the leitmotif of this film. Nya is so completely and utterly superior to the Earthman that every single attempt at stopping her, from guns to electricity to treachery, is doomed to failure. She's impervious to everything, and she's also smarter than everyone else. She humbles the scientific mind of the scientist character by showing off her intellectual and technological prowess, and she takes bullets like nothing, thus negating the male lead's masculinity. Also, she's got a robot. What is that? Oh boy, somebody called the Fonz! There's a giant jukebox on the loose! Seriously, what's that thing going to do? Oh. Praise and glory to Queen Nya and her mighty jukebox!
This whole thing is a waste of time.
The Science Guy.
What ultimately dooms her, ironically enough, is the least threatening man in the cast.
A murderer with a life already forfeit.
Thank you for that. What ultimately dooms her, ironically enough, is the least threatening man in the cast. The prison escapee whose own guilt trip has reduced him to a wrecked, ineffectual male, a state which is punctuated by him losing a fight against the manliest man of the group. And speaking of which, have a random fight scene, folks! So, tired of all the backstabbing, Nya decides to kill everybody just as soon as her saucer finishes self-repairing. Oh yes, by the way, that's the reason why she stopped at this inn. Sorry I forgot to mention it. In a desperate last attempt at tricking her, they manage to convince her to take a guide with her so that he might be able to blow the ship from the inside. Somehow. Much to the manly reporter's now sudden lack of masculinity, the escapee turns out to be the chosen guide, and then he blows the ship from the inside! Somehow? It's never quite explained how he was able to do that, but there you go.
Yes. I want to know if there's been something the matter with
Oh, a man just died to save our lives. So this was Devil Girl from Mars. Offensively sexist or poignant commentary about the misguided nature of masculinity in relation with the equally misguided nature of feminism, not to mention a parody of the then contemporary sci-fi tropes? That is surprisingly hard to say with mathematical precision. What it's really easy to say, on the other hand, is that this film wouldn't be deserving of its cult following, or indeed any particular attention, if it wasn't for Patricia LaFon's stellar performance. And make no mistake, it is an unironically good performance. Nya is one of the greatest villainess in movies history, right up there with Maleficent and Queen Grimhilda, to name a couple. She's cold-hearted, overpowered, ruthless and calculative, but at the same time she retains some sort of childish amusement in the way she basks in the Earthman's baffled reaction to her intellectual and technological superiority, which is both surprisingly subtle and human. In the end, you could say it was this arrogance, this very human trait that caused her defeat. Patricia LaFon is currently over 90 years old, still alive and kicking. To her, I just want to say, thank you. Thank you for this great character. She definitely deserved a better comeuppance than an off-screen death. May the Force be with you. All hail Queen Nya. All hail Darth Vader's mom. It looks smaller on the inside! Wait, did I get that reference wrong?